It started with a feeling, not a sound, not a scream, just a shift in the air that didn't make sense at first. One moment, everything felt normal. Families gathering their things, children laughing under bright stadium lights, car doors opening and closing as the night slowly came to an end. And then without warning, something changed. A mother called her daughter's name, and there was no answer. She called again, louder this time, and still nothing came back. And in that space between those calls, something cold settled deep in her chest. The kind of instinct no parent ever forgets, because somewhere beneath the confusion, she already understood this wasn't a delay. This wasn't a child wandering too far. This was something else entirely. It was a Friday evening in early June 1995 in Alma, Arkansas, a quiet town where nothing unusual was expected and people felt safe without thinking twice. The air was warm, heavy with summer heat, and fireflies flickered just beyond the reach of the field lights. It was supposed to be a simple night, a local baseball game, familiar faces, and an easy outing, nothing more than that. Colleen Nick had been invited, and for a moment, she considered staying home because it wasn't a place she knew well, but she went anyway, and she brought her 6-year-old daughter Morgan with her. Morgan was a bright 6-year-old girl full of imagination and curiosity. She had light hair, bright eyes, and a smile that lit up her whole face with small silver caps on her teeth, catching the light whenever she laughed. She believed bubblegum wasn't just candy, but something completely different, and she stood by that idea with confidence. She dreamed of doing big things one day, maybe performing under bright lights or becoming a doctor. And at home, she took her role as a big sister seriously, reading to her younger siblings slowly and carefully, as if every word mattered. That evening, she wore a green Girl Scout shirt with denim shorts and white sneakers. She sat beside her mother in the stands watching the baseball game for a while. But soon her attention drifted towards something else. Other children playing near the parking lot. Laughter floating through the air. Fireflies glowing in the darkness just beyond the lights. It didn't take long before she turned and asked if she could go join them. Her mother hesitated because it wasn't their town and it was getting late, but the people around them reassured her that the kids always played there and that it was safe. Nothing ever happened in a place like this. And for a moment, those words felt enough to ease her concern. For a short while, everything seemed normal. Morgan ran through the grass with 2 other children chasing small flickers of light while her mother watched from a distance, keeping one eye on the game and one eye on her daughter. Everything looked fine. Everything felt fine until the game ended. The crowd began to shift as players left the field and families gathered their belongings, moving slowly toward the parking lot. Colleen looked up again and saw the other children returning, but Morgan wasn't with them. At first, it didn't feel like danger. Maybe she had gone ahead. Maybe she was already at the car. But when she reached it, Morgan wasn't there either. That was the moment everything changed. She began calling her daughter's name again and again while scanning the area. Moving quickly now as confusion turned into panic. People were still leaving. Engines starting, headlights sweeping across the ground. Life continued in every direction except hers. She found the 2 children Morgan had been playing with and asked where she was. They explained that Morgan had stayed back near a car for a moment while they walked ahead, thinking she was right behind them. And then one detail surfaced. There had been a man nearby. He had been standing near the edge of the parking lot beside a red pickup truck watching the children instead of the game. At some point, he had moved closer and spoken to Morgan. They couldn't remember exactly what was said, but they remembered how it felt. Something about him didn't feel right, and now Morgan was gone. Within minutes, the situation escalated. Officers arrived and began searching the area. But those early minutes had already passed, and whatever chance there was to stop it had slipped away. Somewhere in a movement of vehicles leaving the lot, a red truck had already disappeared into the night. The search expanded quickly. Officers combed through fields with flashlights. Volunteers arrived calling her name. Helicopters scanned the surrounding area, and search dogs were brought in to track any possible scent. The entire community came together hoping for even the smallest sign, but nothing was found. Investigators focused on the details they had, especially the description of the man and the red pickup truck with a white camper shell that didn't fit properly. It stood out as unusual, and reports from nearby areas soon began coming and describing similar vehicles and suspicious encounters, but none of them led to a confirmed suspect. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, The number of leads grew into the thousands. Every report was followed, every sighting checked, but the trail kept fading instead of becoming clearer. The truck was never identified, and the person responsible seemed to vanish completely. Years passed, but the case was never forgotten. Investigators returned to old evidence and re-examined earlier leads looking for anything that might have been missed. Eventually, attention returned to individuals connected to similar descriptions and behaviors from that time. Decades later, advances in forensic science allowed evidence that had once been unusable to be tested again. And for the first time, biological material linked to a vehicle in the case produced a connection that confirmed someone from Morgan's family had been inside that vehicle, supporting long-held suspicions. But even with that breakthrough, one fact never changed. Morgan was still missing, and no confirmed location had ever been discovered. The person believed to be responsible was no longer alive, taking whatever answers existed with them. Through it all, her mother never stopped searching, never stopped speaking her name, never allowed the story to fade into silence. Years passed. Life moved forward for everyone else, but the absence remained just as heavy as it had been on the first night. Morgan Nick would be an adult today, but instead she remains forever 6 years old, a little girl who chased fireflies on a warm summer night and never came back.